we're in Wallaby, Belgium today, but we're talking about another Belgium park on this video.
After Toverland, we went to Plopsaland in Belgium, the 7th park of our Halloween tour.
We already talked about all the other parks on this tour, so
including Wallaby Belgium.
Yeah, including Wallaby Belgium. Make sure to check all the other videos and about Plopsaland. So Plopsaland was the last park on the original tour, on the Coaster Breaks tour, and obviously Marcus is a tour guide. He has all the tips from this park. So
what we always do when we get to Plopsaland is head straight to Heide the ride. Obviously, we're there for one reason, and we're there for ride happiness. That's the main reason that everyone's going to be going to Plopsaland. But seriously, you've got to run straight to Heide the ride, because Plopsaland has a lot of staggered openings. Some rides don't open till 1 p.m, and you never really know until you get there. They never really advertise it, so you just have to hope. But Heide the ride always opens. But the problem with it is it's a little tiny GCI. It looks like someone's taken the train of Wicker Man and cut it in half. The capacity is tiny, so make sure you go straight to Heide the ride, because in the afternoon you can see they have an hour-long queue while Ride Happiness is on like 10 minutes. Heide the ride, it's a good little ride.
Yeah, it's a family coaster, a family wooden coaster.
It's a good step up.
It's worth doing, but it's not worth queuing for. So this is why it's good to just go with right in the beginning of the day. And
a bit like K3 Roller Skater, which I always tend to head to next. This is another ride that just picks up a big queue. It's just a Vekoma junior coaster. But while doing this, keep an eye on Ride Happiness. Watch it to test, and then watch it for when you do see guests finally get on it. So we'll just keep going around the park, watching, waiting for Ride Happiness to open, and when it does, we will go on it. But in the meantime, there's other coasters like Me Coaster, which has just been rethemed for 2022. So check that out.
If you count credits.
If you count credits. So yeah, if you count your credits, get that early on as well, because that can build a big queue. And then just keep going around until you get to Anubis. Anubis is a fun little Gerstlauer launch coaster. The launch is good. The ride itself is...
Yeah, the rest of the ride is...
It's a Euro Fighter.
It's not the best launch coaster in the park.
It's got the best launch though. The Super Splash, which is a roller coaster, if you go on RCDB, it says it's not, but it definitely is a credit. That doesn't normally open till 1 p.m. And hopefully at this point, Ride Happiness has just opened. It's quite a good coaster.
Ride Happiness is my favorite coaster, and I just love this so much. I love spinning rides, but I never went to a good spinning coaster. So when I went to Ride to Happiness, I had this hope that it's going to be what a spinning coaster is supposed to be, and it is. First thing about the theming. The theming is really cool. You have the onboard audio is themed as Tomorrowland, the festival.
The audio is done by Hans Zimmer, the famous film musician.
You get this vibe of Tomorrowland to the whole ride because of the audio. The whole queue is themed. The station, I think the station is really cool.
The station is cool.
I love how you have...
Like the robot, live today, love tomorrow, unite forever.
My favorite ride on Ride to Happiness was our last ride when we got the front row. So when you're approaching the station again, you have the whole view of like the station with the theming, and it's like a window to the rest of the park, seeing the JoJo row. I love going into the JoJo row with the soundtrack.
Especially on the front.
Yeah, it's so good. And then you have the first launch and the top hat. It's amazing. Marcus' top tip on this ride is go front row or back row.
Yeah, never go in the middle.
At all.
I mean, front row on the top hat is amazing when you go up. Back row, when you are facing backwards as well and you're going down, that's the best bit. Like, it throws you over the edge. It's amazing. And recently they've just added a kicker wheel at the top of the top hat, because there was an incident where it did stall at the top, and now that's resolved that issue, which is great. So yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah, I mean, the top hat is my favorite part of the ride. My favorite thing on Ride to Happiness is every time you go, you have a different ride. So I think it's so easy to just keep re-riding because you have different experiences every time. So you can go like on front row facing forwards in some elements, and then in another element you're facing backwards. And then when you go again, even if you're in the front row again, if you go like facing another side, you're gonna have different feelings. So we went like 10 times on our last ride. There was an element that we went sideways, and I never done it in other rides that we've done. And it felt so different. I was like, it's like I'm riding it for the first time. So I just love to be able to every time having a different feeling. It's so cool to every time we go into the top hat. If we're in the front, we're cheering to get on the top of the top hat facing forwards. If we're in the back, cheering to get facing backwards. You never know what you're getting. It's just part of the ride. Part of the experience that you have.
Yeah, I love the way there was one point we thought we were going to go facing forwards on the back, down the drop. And just before we got to the drop, it just spun so quick and just threw us backwards so well.
Yeah. And it's very intense. Just feels like it does everything that I was hoping for.
The second launch to the little airtime bunny hill in the middle, I love. But the second launch is followed by the double inverting dive loop. And that, I think, is my favourite element because it twists around twice so quick. And when you're spinning and the two twists really quick at the top, before you come down, you don't know where you're going. And that's so unique. I love that element.
Yeah, I mean, it's my favourite ride. I'm so excited talking about it. And we will always try to balance the weight. So in a way that is more weight, not balanced, like the other way around, right? Like unbalanced.
Yeah, unbalanced.
So get like one side being heavier and the other side being like with less weight. So in that way you spin more. And we were always like trying to arrange our group in order to do that. And it was so good when you have like a lot of spins.
Yeah, it's one of the best coasters in the world. But I mean, it's your favorite.
It's the best coaster in the world that I've done.
Top tip for Ride to Happiness, the queue really starts to die down before 1 o'clock. So between 1 p.m. and 2 p.m, the queue is more or less a walk on. And it always has been. Even on busier days when the queue's been about 30, 40 minutes throughout the day, you'll see it drop down to 5, 10 minutes at this time. So it's really worth 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. Go on it as much as you can. And you'll start noticing from 2 p.m. onwards, the queue starts building up again and again throughout the rest of the afternoon. So 1 till 2, that's the time to lap it. It's really cool the way they fitted the coaster into the park, put it over the water, over the top of the super splash. It just fits in so well. I think Mack are fantastic at designing coasters fit in very difficult places. Like when you look at Helix at Liseberg or Icon at Blackpool, and then Ride Happiness at Plopsaland, Mack are very good at doing this.
And they have the new restraints that lock automatically. So unlike Helix, they won't staple you during the ride, which is good.
Yeah, that's my problem with Mack trains. I don't like Mack trains, and that's why I can't rate Helix or Icon high. I just feel uncomfortable on them. But Ride to Happiness, I feel so comfortable on.
The park itself, the theming of the park is kind of average, other rides were average, but it's so worth going there because of Ride to Happiness. I mean, it's not a bad park.
Yeah, it's not a bad park. I just like the prices of the park. So it's €5 for a bottle of water, $4.50 for a beer. So beer is actually cheaper than water, which is crazy.
I'm glad we like beer more than water. I don't know why we're complaining.
But I just feel like, I just felt like that the food quality is not great there. If you get a Plopsa burger, not so good. So I feel like there's certain elements that they can improve on, but they have been doing well since they've started.
Yeah, they have other rides. They have a disco that I always love.
Yeah, disco looks so good.
I like the theming on that area of the disco. And they have a log flume. They have a rapid.
No.
Okay, they don't have a rapid.
So everything feels like well themed, but you have a dinosaur log flume next to a Swiss wooden coaster opposite medieval dragon coaster, all in the exact same area. It feels a bit mismatched,
yeah,
but it works.
But the theming on the wooden coaster is actually really good as well.
Yeah, it is. Plopsaland used to originally be called Melly Park. Melly is a brand of honey. Very famous over this part of the world. If you're anywhere in Belgium, especially if you wake up for breakfast in any hotel, there'll always be Melly honey. And just down the road from Plopsaland, you can still see the Melly factory and head office. So originally it was honey educated, and all educational site about honey. Plopsaland eventually took over the park in early 2000s as Studio 100, which is the Belgium TV station. So they took over the park, and Plopsa is the first two characters that they created. So Samson was the dog, and a Kabouter Plop is the gnome. So taking Kabouter Plop and just taking Plop and Samson, taking Saf and Samson, they created Plopsa. And that's how we ended up getting the Plopsa parks. And that's how they then started re-theming everything to their own IPs and their own TV show. And I think it's really good to have this park that's part of Belgium history. The kids have seen their TV shows, but what's really cool, they have meet and greets of the characters.
They're so popular.
They're so popular, massive queues. Like Me, the cast from Like Me, I've seen them there. I've seen Samson and Marie, and that dog's got a deep voice. He sounds just like Barry White. It's so weird. But you see like all these characters there. Bumba will walk by, the circus clown, and it's really cool to see these characters for the local area. Now, as a British and a Brazilian, we're not so like, oh, look, it's K3 but it must be really cool for the local community to be able to have this come to life. And if you go to the park, you can still see elements of honey. So they still sell melly in the main shop. So you can get a honey cake, and there's certain displays around the park that you can see that's all based around the honey.
Yeah, it's cool that they keep part of the history of the park there.
It is. And I think parks that keep the history, I respect. And I think that's why I respect Plopsaland as well.
This is Plopsaland for us. Really worth going. Ride to Happiness. I can't say enough how amazing it is. This was the last Coaster Breaks official park on the tour. But if you watched the itinerary video, you saw that we decided to go to the UK because it was Nemesis closing day. So we went to Blackpool and Alton Towers. So make sure to subscribe to watch our next videos about it.
Stay tuned in the next episode to see where we're going next.